picking it up with Simone Takes on the World. It's on page 14 in your book. Okay, remember Simone has worked really, really hard. She spent a lot of time in the gym, and then she had to be homeschooled so that she had enough time to train, both get her schoolwork done and train for the Olympics. All that hard work paid off. Simone made the senior national team in 2013 and went to compete in her first World Championships in Belgium. Going into the tournament, few people outside of the U.S. knew about Simone. Many doubted that she could compete on a world stage, but she didn't let the pressure get to her. She bounced her way to silver on the vault, leapt her way to bronze on the balance beam, and flipped her way to gold on the floor exercise. She was awarded the all-around title, which is given to the gymnast with the highest combined score in all events. She was the first African-American gymnast to win the all-around gold at the World Championships. Simone didn't stop there. She won 4 more golds and a silver medal at the 2014 World Championships. And in 2015, she added to her medal count with another four golds and a bronze. She became the first woman to win 3 world titles in a row. There's another cool time-lapse picture of her that you can see her flipping around. All right, now remember, most gymnasts are really good at one of the events. Maybe they're really good at the balance beam, or they're really good at the vault, or they're really good at the floor exercise. Simone was really, really unique in that she was so good at all of them to win that many golds in all different events. A dream come true. But there was still one thing Simone wanted most of all: to compete at the Olympics. She finally got her chance when she entered the 2016 Olympics in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. The day before her flight, Simone left a note for her grandparents. "I will make you proud," she wrote. Then it was off to the Olympic Village where all the athletes stay. The Olympic Village had everything she could want: workout centers, a huge cafeteria, and a pool. In the cafeteria at the village, Simone bumped into Olympic athletes she had always looked up to. There was sprinter Usain Bolt, swimmer Michael Phelps, and tennis players Rafael Nadal. She could hardly believe it. Here she was, just a girl from Texas, competing in the Olympics. With Simone leading the way, many people expected Team USA to win gold at the Olympics. Simone lived up to the hype. On the balance beam, she performed with grace. She flipped across the 4-inch wide beam without losing her balance. Picture that, 4 inches, it's about like that. Okay? And she's flipping across there, standing, being able to balance on it and do all her flips and all of that. Then it was time for the dismount, the final move. Simone backflipped twice and leapt off the end of the beam. She spun in the air before sticking the landing. She finished with the best score. The last event was the floor exercise. Simone performed flawlessly. She soared off the mat higher than any of the other gymnasts. She flipped backwards and tumbled her way to first place. When all the events were over, Team USA won the gold medal. Next up, the individual competitions. Simone felt like she was going to throw up. It was just moments before the individual competitions, and she was on a couch trying to gather her nerves. Her teammate, Allie Raceman, sat beside her. "We've got this," Allie said. Simone took a deep breath. "We can do this," she replied. They did a fist bump and walked into the arena. The crowd was going wild. Simone listened for her grandmother's voice. "You've got this!" Simone heard her shout. The first event was the vault. It was the same event that had been her downfall in the 2011 Junior National Championships. Everything Simone had ever dreamed of was coming down to this. She tried to block out the noise in the arena. Her heart pounded in her chest. Just like practice, she told herself. She sprinted down the runway, bounced off the vault, and soared through the air. She spun around twice and added a twist at the end. A perfect landing. The crowd roared. Simone had done it. She finished in first place, becoming the first American woman to win gold on the vault at the Olympics. Simone would go on to dominate the rest of her events. She earned gold for the floor exercise and bronze for the balance beam. She was also awarded the all-around gold. As she stood on the podium to receive her medals, she thought about the hard work it had taken to get there. "Everything was going through my head," she said, "but mainly it was like I had finally done it, and that's when it hits you. You can't really stop the emotions." That's where we'll stop for today. Look in your Tuesday folder, and you should have this sheet. Once again, I forgot to write Tuesday at the top, so if you can just help me out, write Tuesday, and then write your name at the top. Today we're going to make some connections between Simone Biles and other things that we've read and ourselves. So, book title right here, Simone Biles, Raising the Bar. So, text to self. How does this book remind you of yourself? How does this make a connection to you? Does this remind you of something that you've worked really, really hard for? Does it remind you of something that you've tried really hard to do? Does her life remind you of your life somehow? How does this book, how is Simone Biles similar to you? Second one there, text to text. How is this book similar to something else we've read? How is this book similar to something else we've read? Well, I'm thinking about just what we read 2 weeks ago in Finding Lincoln. In our story last week, Finding Lincoln, Louis had to work really hard on his report, like Simone had to work really hard for the gymnastics. And then text to world. How does this remind you of something else in our world? Does this remind you of another professional athlete that's really successful? Does it remind you of maybe sometime when you watched the Olympics? What do you think of? Think of some way here that it reminds you, that this book reminds you of something else in the world. Okay? So I did this one with you, but you should have something for how this book is, how Simone is similar to you. And then text the world how this reminds you of something else in the world at the bottom. When you're done, make sure it makes it back in your Tuesday folder.